Pakistan has launched desperate and reckless attacks involving drones and missiles targeting Indian military bases. However, Indian armed forces successfully brought down an onslaught of drone fire by Pakistan in a part of Jammu, in Rajasthan, as well as in Punjab. Over 50 drones were successfully neutralized during a large-scale counter-drone operation. Now, as Pakistan made failed attempts to send swarms of drones all across various parts along the line of control and international border. According to sources, the Indian Army air defense units were activated in Udhampur, Samba, Jammu, Akhnur, Nagrota and Pathankot areas. While 8 missiles from Pakistan directed at Satwari, Samba, Arispura and Arnia sector of Jammu were also intercepted. Now, headquarters of India's Integrated Defence Staff is posted on X, and I quote, "Military stations of Jammu, Pathankot and Udhampur in proximity to the international boundary in Jammu and Kashmir targeted by Pakistan using missiles and drones. Threat neutralized by the Indian Armed Forces as per SOP with kinetic and non-kinetic means." Now, in the aftermath of the escalation, the Indian Ministry of Defence has said that no casualties or material losses were reported, while assuring that India remains fully prepared to defend its sovereignty and the safety of its people. Blackouts were enforced in Pathankot, Poonch, Rajouri, Uri and Baramulla, along with Jaisalmer and Amritsar. Residents were asked to remain indoors, turning off lights and keeping the curtains drawn amid heightened security tensions. Meanwhile, Pakistan continues its blatant violation of ceasefire along the line of control. Pakistani shelling targeted schools sheltering civilians evacuated from villages near the LOC in North Kashmir. Loud gunfire and explosions were heard on the 15th night of ceasefire violations following the Pahalgam terror attack. A woman in Uri was killed while 8 others were injured as civilian cars came under the Pakistani fire with bullets and shrapnel found in the area. Rajasthan Chief Minister Bhajanlal Sharma also held a high-level meeting after Pakistani drones were intercepted in Jaisalmer. The meeting was attended by Chief Secretary, Home Secretary, Director General of Police and DG Intelligence. In the meantime, all government and private schools of Baramulla, Kupwara and schools falling in the proximity of Srinagar and Avantipura will remain closed on 9th and 10th of May as a precautionary measure. Now, parallel to this, the Indian BSF foiled a major infiltration bid near Jammu and Kashmir's Samba district. The BSF said that the incident took place at around 11 p.m. at the international boundary and was swiftly neutralized. And for more of this, we're being joined by Dr. Malcolm Davis from Canberra, Australia. He's a senior analyst in defence strategy at Australian Strategic Policy Institute and a military expert. Thank you so much, Mr. Davis, for joining us on WION World is One.
It's my pleasure.
Mr. Davis, over the last few hours, we've witnessed India respond to not just the Pahalgam terror attack, but nearly 2 decades-long terrorism with Operation Sindoor. And while India has precisely targeted the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, Pakistan has responded with indiscriminate shelling on military and civilian infrastructure, along with rampant ceasefire violations along the line of control, and has also engaged in digital warfare with fake news and misinformation being their weapon of choice. So, Mr. Davis, what's your assessment of the situation between India and Pakistan right now?
Well, certainly I would argue that India and Pakistan are in a war situation. It's not some sort of military incident, it's an actual war. And so I think that both sides, both India and Pakistan, need to be cautious going forward, because neither side appears to be ready to look for off-ramps to de-escalate the situation, but that's precisely what they need to do. You know, from the perspective of the international community, there is grave concern, quite understandably, because both India and Pakistan have nuclear weapons, and no one wants to see this escalate out of control to the point whereby one side or the other decides to use a nuclear weapon. So I think that there is now going to be increasing pressure on India and Pakistan to both combatants to de-escalate rather than let this escalate.
Well, Mr. Davis, none of the sides have officially called it a war yet, but it's definitely a war against terrorism. Now, in light of the latest developments, do you think that India's calibrated and measured response marks a shift in its traditional posture? And is India perhaps heading towards a new era of diplomacy, a new era of strategy? And if so, what message does this send to the international community?
Look, I think India was always going to retaliate against that original terrorist attack that killed 26 people. But, I think that what needs to happen now is for Delhi and Islamabad to recognize that they have to scale things back, they have to de-escalate. And I think from an Indian perspective, they've got a responsibility as one of the world's leading powers to make sure that this doesn't spin out of control. I think that what you are seeing in terms of their actual use of force is quite precise and calibrated. And I think that the Indians have demonstrated very effective military capabilities over the last few days. I think that, whilst you note that no one's calling it a war, I think these days no one actually really declares war, but war happens. So I do think that both sides need to be cognizant of the risk going forward. Neither side should really want this to escalate out of control to the point whereby nuclear weapons use becomes a real threat.
Absolutely, Mr. Davis. And building on what you've just said, global reactions are also pouring in. And while the predominant stance remains that of exercising restraint and encouraging de-escalation, the latest official statements released by US State Department calls for Islamabad to end its support to terrorism. Now, it's an accusation that Islamabad has always denied. But given that this time it's coming from United States and not India, how do you anticipate Islamabad responding to this pressure?
Look, as I said in an interview a few days ago, any fight against terrorism is a good fight because terrorism is one of the evils of our age. So I do think that it should not only be India fighting against terrorism, it should be Islamabad as well fighting against terrorism. It hurts Pakistan's interests to have terrorist groups operating out of the territory that they control in Jammu and Kashmir or out of Pakistan itself. So I think that it's in Pakistan's interest to clamp down on international terrorism, and I think that's why you are seeing this pressure now from the United States on Pakistan to stop supporting terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba that basically has been undertaking terrorist attacks over past years. And I think if Pakistan would do that, that would potentially open up an opportunity for an off-ramp that both sides could then take and de-escalate this situation.
Right, Mr. Davis, it's a developing situation and we'll have to wait and watch to actually witness how the situation progresses from here. But for now, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast and sharing your perspective with us.
Thank you.